Just some follow-up questions here. In terms of reporting, what I'm reading now is a lot of concern about vaccinating young kids and also those that have previously recovered from COVID. Does our reporting even cover that? Do we say, check and see, has this patient had COVID before and now they're vaccinated and now a relation or whatever? So we follow those type of data?
Yeah, that's information that's collected in our system.
Okay, that's great news. What have you seen from that so far? Do you see any correlation between people who have previously recovered from COVID and now getting the vaccination and then more likely to have an adverse
severe
event?
adverse event? We haven't seen anything to indicate that would be the case.
Okay, what is... I wanted to follow up on the VAERS thing. Do you check to see that the VSafe data appears in VAERS? I mean, are you sure that's showing up, transferring from one to the other?
In my
Or they're
opinion,
doing it
that would be a federal responsibility. I know VAERS is co-managed by FDA and CDC, and I think that would fall under there.
But you can't check Louisiana and see, hey, is that following the stuff we're seeing? No?
No, I don't think so. But again, we have to check with the CDC. I think.
Okay. What is the duration we're looking at for these severe adverse events to be related? I mean, is it 30 days, 90 days? Did y'all cover that and I missed that? Or
Yeah, let me pull it up just so I don't misspeak. So for anaphylaxis, that's the one where I mentioned we really typically expect it to see within hours, right? So the time period we've specified is 3 hours following vaccination. For death, we're looking at a 24-hour period. We really would expect something to happen quickly. Myocarditis and pericarditis, we say 2 weeks. For the thrombosis with thrombocytopenia, we have said 6 weeks. And we actually have cast a wider net when it comes to that. I know that other entities have used a shortened period of time, but because of the severity of this particular condition, we really did want to capture that. And then for the other category, which sort of encompasses any other type of clinical manifestation that requires hospitalization that doesn't have an alternate cause and may be related, we say 3 days within vaccination.
okay, and are all these time periods from administration of any vaccine or booster, or is it after you're fully vaccinated?
Any vaccine.
Okay, and the 24 hours, I realize a lot of people, if they're going to have an event, usually have it quickly, but for my quick summary and look over the data, it looks like 3 days would be a very appropriate time because the numbers drop off significantly after that. Even the VAERS data, after 3 days, the chance of death drops significantly. But I would encourage you to at least consider a 3-day period. What about treatments for COVID? So, and the way I'm asking this is in reporting. So someone passes away, and it may be related to the vaccine. Do you check to see if they've had any other treatments for COVID that may have had an adverse effect? Or is it you're just looking to see that have a relation to the vaccine itself?
This particular reporting system is related specifically to the vaccine.
Okay, so we wouldn't know if they had Pfizer, Mectin, or something like that beforehand. It would just be, did they have the, pardon?
If they had, I'm sorry, I didn't.
If they had taken Pfizer, Mectin, or something else like that out there,
don't know what
budesonide,
it is,
any of those things that are commonly advocated for treatments outside of LDH.
Again, I'm not sure what that is, but when the investigation pursues, it's pretty expansive and encompassing, and medical records are looked at. So if there was some other thing involved, I think it would be covered in the investigation. They're open-ended investigations.
Okay. I hear a lot about something called the number needed to vaccinate to save one life. Is that a figure y'all track with this type of stuff? So do you see, well, how many people did it take to vaccinate to save one life in certain age groups? Is that something that's
not typically something that we calculate? That's come up in the FDA and the CDC's discussions about whether or not to extend authorization or approval, or on the CDC's hand to recommend. And it's one of the statistical calculations they typically use to gauge potential benefits.
So this may be like in 2023 when they finally decide, well, we're going to approve this thing going on. Is that what you're saying? They'll look retrospectively and go, okay, we need to vaccinate this many people to save this many lives?
No, it's not typically retrospective in that regard. It's been introduced in conversation as recently as this past week when they were examining 5 to 11-year-olds. So it's a method to look at the potential benefit of a vaccine that the CDC and the FDA use to influence and inform their decisions.
Okay. I want to study this reporting on kids because I saw that the Pfizer control group had 0 hospitalizations, 0 ICU admissions, 0 deaths out of 2,300 from the 5 to 11 group. And I'm like, is this really necessary? Is this really advancing? And I think we ought to make sure we look at that data and see, was this a worthwhile effort? So just something to consider. We should be looking at everything so we can look back and say, where did we make mistakes? Where did we have success? What can we do better next time?
Certainly. We know that there's a great deal of interest in this age group, and we absolutely will incorporate them into our reporting system.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Cruz. Representative, I believe that's the last one I've got.